All right, here's an SAT question for you, and this is the reading and writing part. All right, this is the question. Which choice best describes the function of the underlined portion in the text as a whole? Let's simplify it. All you need to do here is to understand the function of the underlined portion. That's all. Where is the underlined portion? It is right here. Let's check it out. Douglas observed that the concept of an interactive text is much older than technologists assume, extending back to the first time readers scratched notes into a text's margins. This is our underlined portion right there, the sentence that we have to pay attention to. But in order to understand what exactly it does, we need to look at the context, which comes right before our sentence. Let's read it. In 2023, literary scholar Jeremy Douglas cautioned technology investors and enthusiasts who predict conventional books' ultimate displacement by newer forms of media. Let's dumb this sentence down a bit. In other words, let's translate this sentence into more simple language. So, what exactly is this Jeremy Douglas guy doing? He basically cautioned or warned or informed technology investors and enthusiasts. And those technology investors and enthusiasts basically predict, it doesn't matter, we can dumb it down, that conventional books, usual books, standard paper books that when you go to some bookstore or library, you can see thousands of those conventional books out there, that they will be displaced, replaced, eliminated by newer forms of media. Simply speaking, usual normal paper printed books will not be relevant anymore, and some other content will be in its place, or in their place rather. For example, YouTube will be better or more popular than books. Or, in fact, books are not going to be popular at all. It's just going to be YouTube. It's just going to be podcasts, Spotify, you name it. But this is our context only. Let me highlight that sentence, okay? This is just our context, right there in yellow. This Douglas guy cautioned those technology investors. The investors believe that books will not be relevant anymore and that something else will be instead. But Jeremy Douglas cautioned them, and this is exactly what he's saying. This is the sentence that we're working with. Douglas observed that the concept of an interactive text is much older than technologists assume, extending back to the first time readers scratched notes into text margins. What is he trying to say here? What is he trying to say? Here is this key piece of information. The concept of an interactive text is much older than technologists assume. That is the key piece here that we're focusing on. That this concept of interactive text, media, new forms of media, YouTube videos, applications, it's actually older than you think. So in other words, whatever you technologists and investors are proposing is not really inventing the bicycle. It has been done before. And so, is he agreeing with them? No. Is he arguing with them? Is he proposing a new solution? Is he saying that something is better than something else? Now, it's also important to know that this other part of the text right there isn't really helping us at all, because we already have our context. The context is right there in the first sentence. And our sentence, the sentence that we're working with, is right there. Now, this is not relevant. You don't have to pay attention to this. Now, look at our options, A, B, C, and D. Let us only pay attention to the first two words. First, A, it challenges. Let me highlight that. It challenges. B, it explains. C, it suggests. And D, it provides. So again, the question is, what does this sentence right there, What does this sentence do? And then it challenges, it explains, it suggests, it provides. Now let's look a bit deeper. A, right? It challenges the stance of the investors and enthusiasts. It explains the basis for the claim. It suggests that academics are better suited than investors. It provides historical anecdote about the technological challenges. Now let's rule out the options that we have, some of the options that we have. C is definitely not right for us because this sentence right there that we've highlighted in green does not really compare anything or anybody with something else. So it says, are better suited than investors. Look at option C. There's no comparison. This Jeremy Douglas guy is basically saying that, look, you're not suggesting anything new. This existed before. You're too late to the party. Okay? Now let's look at D. It provides a historical anecdote. Is it a historical anecdote, really? An anecdote is basically a story, but there's no story. He's just making a claim. He's saying, look, interactive text existed before. This newer forms of media that you're talking about isn't really new. That's his argument. D is out. Let's look at B. It explains the basis for the claim made by the technologist mentioned in the text. It explains the basis for the claim? No, he argues with them. He provides a counter argument. He's saying this is not new. This is not newer forms of media. B is out. And A would certainly be our option. This is the choice. This is the right answer. It challenges the stance of the investors and enthusiasts who are mentioned earlier in the text. Absolutely, because Jeremy Douglas says, whatever you mean by new forms of media is not new. Interactive text existed before. That is why our option is option A.